This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
Darren Rovell, who covers the sports business beat for ESPN, joining us now. Darren, thank you very much for the time. It's always good to catch up. The SEC announced that they are pretty much the World Bank today as well, handing out nearly $32 million to a team. The speculation certainly on why the difference between a year ago and today. The only thing a bystander could come up with is the fact that there has been a college football playoff, and yes, there is an ESPN SEC network.
Right. Yeah, no, the numbers are pretty amazing. Now, it's obviously not apples and oranges to say the Big 12 because of the number of teams, but if you compare it, it's significantly more than the Big 10. So what I did is I looked at over the last 6 years, factoring for inflation, SEC conference revenue has grown 210%. And now let me give you the numbers on the growth. 1985 total revenue, and this is with just inflation-adjusted numbers, so just takes into account over time the value of money. So 1985 was an equivalent of $20 million in revenue total. 1995, $62.5 million in revenue. 2005, $134 million in revenue, and obviously 2015, $455. So, you can obviously see that in the last 10 years, it's been a different type of financial game.
What does it mean? And is there any way to, without being inside that operation, to know exactly where these numbers are coming from and how much can be attributed to the start of the SEC network?
Well, it's hard. I think it's very easy to laud those numbers, and I think the first things that ADs are going to come up with, because they're pressured to explain why they're not the World Bank, is to say that the costs since 2005, say, have significantly increased. Whether it's more programs or more stadium rebuilds, the cost of the battle, the war in recruiting. It's hard to say, how much people are netting. I mean, I think what you said before, clearly the playoff and the SEC network, that's the big money there. But it's really hard to say kind of what this means. This is not a number that looks particularly great for the fact that, you have O'Bannon and the Kessler lawsuit breathing down the NCAA and schools' necks at this time.
And is there a way, and of course I asked this after the Big Ten beat the SEC, of course, and you're a Big Ten graduate, I might add, in the national semifinals. Is there a way to look at the Big Ten network, which has been up and running, I believe, for 7 or 8 years, and compare and contrast it with the SEC network, which has only been online for 9 months?
Well, what's impressive about the Big Ten network, because to be honest with you, and Dave Repson, my friend and Northwestern colleague, I did not give the Big Ten network the greatest chance in the world in terms of I was not sure at the time. They were on their own, and I was not sure it was going to work out. And they developed tremendous carriage. I think they developed. Obviously, they have that the Fox relationship, which is necessary. It's hard to say exactly. I mean, I would say that the SEC network just has that. The difference is that they have a better chance at viewership when it's just random Paul Finebaum talking versus a game than the Big Ten network does, and that's because of the level of passion. So you have a number that's more sustainable regardless of what game is going on, because the level of passion in the SEC that does not exist to the same level at the Big Ten, and that's worth more money. That you have kind of a line where you say, well, even if we're not running a game, which is obviously the big carrot, people are still watching to this level, and that's the advantage that the SEC network has over the Big Ten network.
Well said, and always great to catch up. Darren, many thanks. We'll be watching and Talk to you very soon.
Thanks, Paul. Hopefully you got some of that extra revenue into your pocket.
It was all up front. Thanks, Darren. Great stuff, Darren Rovell. And sometimes what was it, Pogo, who once said about we have met the enemy, and it is us. We are part of the story today. I say where we work, not us personally, but it is a very big story. What has been going on all week, and what we anticipated and most predicted would happen today with the SEC numbers. I mean, the numbers are enormous, and certainly everyone wondered 2 years ago when the SEC network was launched what impact it would have, how it would be received, and today I think is one of those days when people, not that there were many doubters out there, but those who were are doubting no more when you talk about $455 million in revenues distributed today by the SEC among its 14 institutions. Each member will receive $31.2 million. That's more than $10 million than last year. And you've already heard us talk about what the biggest differences are. And by the way, I say this not as an employee, not as a spokesperson for either side. I'm simply stating that this is just the first. This is 9 months in. This thing is just underway. It really hasn't. I wouldn't say it hasn't really gotten underway yet. Of course it has, but any startup is going to that is successful will improve throughout time. This is all money that's going, of course, to member institutions, and as John alluded to, it will really help. At Alabama, $11 million, LSU, but this is particularly important as you go down toward the schools that simply have not been as successful from a financial standpoint.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
The new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
You're home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.